Welcome to the Agile Localization Podcast by Crowdin, where we unpack the strategies and solutions that make localization fast, scalable, and efficient. I'm your host, Stefan Huyghe. Good morning from Texas. We're here at the Agile Localization Podcast by Crowdin with Simona Kisser. We are going to put the highlights on freelancers today that are using Crowdin, and I entitled this session From Freelancer to Integrated Teammates. Linguists are often the earliest adopters of advanced technology, and we're going to put Simona's feet to the fire about that this morning, or I should say afternoon, where she is. So we're exploring how tech-savvy linguists like Simona are redefining collaboration, quality, and ownership in agile localization. Simona, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, Stefan. Thank you so much for having me. I'm as most of us, I think, my plan wasn't to become a translator from the start. I'm actually a graduate industrial engineer, and during my studies, I just did some copywriting and translation tasks, and I found myself enjoying it so much that I thought it would be a great chance to travel around for a year or so and do some freelancing services. And that was 10 years ago, and I'm still doing it. I'm loving it. Of course, I've undergone translation training since then, but my focus has been technical translations, software localization. I've become a sworn translator, so I can also do official translations, but what I most enjoy is still technical translation and software localization.
I think we should dive into one of the favorite questions I'm so sure with linguists all the time. When I go to conferences, I hear linguists talk about this kind of thing. So what advice would you give to developers or PMs at LSPs to make life easier for translators?
Well, it's usually the most simple things, you would say it's simple, but very often we just don't have the context. So if you provide us with context, if you are available, like there's a question, you don't have to get back within seconds. But we really appreciate it if there is someone we can ask, because there sometimes are questions, like we are professionals, but we are not always familiar with the products. So it's always good to see there's somebody we can really reach out and who really cares and who gives us context if we need it. The best case is like if you already give us a context without asking. But so that's like that can really enhance the translation quality if you're just there, available, and show that you care and you can provide the context the translator needs.
You must really like working with Crowd in them, because they do a good job of trying to make that connection, make the UX available in the workflow. W- How does that change your activities? Being able to work with the UX screens right in front of you.
Yeah, well, the thing about translating software is that you very often have like short, like CTAs or um, buttons, or short, like just there it says start, and you don't know, does it mean start the program or go back to start, or so when you see the context, you actually know what you are talking about, and you also know how much of character space you should use or can't use. And that really helps to make the software translation look great, nice, and neat. So, yeah, Crowdin does a really good job at that. And yeah, that's just another example why context is so important.
Yeah. And how do you handle placeholders and variables or tags? We've been doing some series for Crowdon that highlight some of the newest features, the UI copy inside the software as well. W- How do you have you found comfortableness working with these new tools in the software?
Yeah, so it depends a lot on like the client instructions, of course. Very often the placeholders and variables, we can't touch them, but we have to make sure they are in context because sentence structure, I'm doing translations from English into German, so the sentence structure is not always the same. And it would sound very awkward if it said, let's say, please pay $5. Like, that sounds really bad. So you have to make sure the dollar sign is where it should be. And just to give an example for a placeholder. And so it's very important to have that, like, ensure they are intact, but they are also in place. So it's like keeping them untouched, but also respect them.
Die
Yeah.
das Schwarze Conjugation, ich spreche Deutsch auch.
Ja,
Also,
sehr gut.
yeah, aha. So, do you use screenshots and the Figma previews or live context integrations in the day-to-day work that you do?
Yes, of course, it always, I have to work with what I get. Like, the ideal case is like Figma previews or screenshots within the tool. Very often, sadly, I don't get the screenshots. I don't get access to the software, so I have to review my translation afterwards. But I always beg for screenshots. And the best thing is, like, when you open the platform and you see a string and you right next to it, you can see the image and see the context. That it's just, we have only a limited amount of time to do our translations. And it's just an easy way to save time and focus on other things. Like, if I don't have to spend my time looking for screenshots in a folder, because sometimes you get like that screenshot folder with like 50 subfolders, and you just have to search for each string. And that takes like so much time. So if you save that time as a translator, you have so much more time left to actually focus on the quality and to make the copy sound nice.
Yeah. Since we're on this topic, usually I save this for the end, but since we're on this specific topic already, is there any specific feature within Crowdin that you think is like the champion for you that really makes a difference in your job as a freelancer easier day to day?
Yeah, well, there's several, but what I really love about Crowdin is the DTM, because the search function works very well. Like, let's say I have to update a translation, a software that I translated a year ago. So, of course, I have my glossary, but maybe I don't remember the style of tone we used back then, or there is a tricky phrase, and I say, I know I translated it back then, I don't know the way I put it. And so the search function works really well, and it is really helpful to just find other translations that have been done before, also if you're working with several translators. So that's like the most helpful feature. It sounds simple again, but that's like
Yeah.
what I really, really enjoy about Crowdin. And like my personal favorite is, well, we are as linguists, we just enjoy speaking many languages. So I love the feature where you see what other translators submitted it in their language, so I can just read the French version or the Spanish version. And I enjoy it, and it can also be helpful because sometimes you can't come up with the great, like there's a better solution out there, but you just can't think of it. And sometimes it really helps to read like the solutions other languages came up with and get inspired for the German translation. So it's not like the most important feature, but I enjoy it a lot.
I speak 4 languages too, and I can tell you that seems to me like a super interesting and helpful feature to be able to see how other people are doing their translations and maybe get inspired because you see how somebody solved it in Spanish or Italian. I can imagine how that
Yes.
works. How do you balance productivity and quality in such an integrated environment?
Well, as we just said, the great thing is if you have context, if you understand what you're actually translating, then you can actually be quite productive while delivering great quality translation. So I think they go along with each other. If you are productive, you can do really great quality copy. So yeah, just being effective with my workflows, making sure I have everything I need before I start. Like, as I said, I sometimes really have to beg for the clients. Like, they say they use Crowdin, but sometimes they are not aware of the features, or they just don't think it's so important to provide us with context. Is just in a translation, that's what they sometimes think. So we have to tell them it's so important, and it will help us to be quicker, and that leaves us with more time to be really good. And yeah, so I think the more productive you get, the better the quality can actually be.
Yeah. Part of the intention with a lot of these functionalities is to not only get you closer to the source, but the other way around as well, to get you closer to the product teams and the lines of communication open with the end clients of your translations. How does being in the tech stack affect how seriously you're taken by product teams? Have you seen any difference in that sense now that you can work directly in cooperation with the designers?
hmm Yeah, well, very often, first we'll test like the translator, and we're often not even connected with with the person behind the software or the developers on the client side. They don't introduce us. But when you start using, for example, the comment feature, that's when conversation like starts rolling. So it's really great if let's say we talked about variables, and I just don't know what the variable does, so how I should treat it. And then I can just leave a comment, and maybe the developer on the other side is quicker to respond than the PM or the localization guy. So yeah, that really helps. And also, I think it helps us as translators to be seen as part of the product, because very often the IT department of the client doesn't even think about the localized version. And I've had it like when you start working with a new client, they don't think much about translation. And as you keep working with them, they understand how important it is to actually work together. And they see that you know the tool, that you know how to use it, features they may not have used yet. So yeah, that's being part of the tech stack really helps also to ensure quality. Yeah, so it's really beneficial.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question because quality is something that's evolved so vastly from maybe 20 years ago, where the focus with linguists was always on the language aspect of the content. But there's a lot of other pieces that are involved that can mean quality to the client. What does quality really mean to Simona Kisser? And when it comes to translation, how do you evaluate that?
Mhm. So to me, quality, like the utmost quality, is that someone reads your translated copy, the translated version, and they don't realize it's translated. They just feel it's been German from the start. It's written by someone German for someone German. Same for products. You don't feel the product is imported. You feel it's made for the German market. And so that's the highest you can get with your translation. Like they don't even realize it is a translation. And of course, like the typical let's say like aspects of quality is that you don't have spelling mistakes, that it sounds great. And yeah, so like having a great quality in language terms. But yeah, the highest, like the best you can achieve is really that they don't realize it's a translation. And that's actually our aim, and that's why translation and localization can be so different, because it's not just about replacing words from one language with words from another language. It's really about talking to our readers on the target market and make them feel addressed in their language for them.
Of course, ensuring brand tone and terminology is something that's always important to translators. Working in a highly advanced technological framework, does that change the way you work with brand tone and terminology in any way for you? Do you work differently in Crowdin than you would maybe in a less technical scenario?
Yes. We can start with like simple aspects are glossaries. Um, Usually, like sometimes we don't even get them, or if we get them, they used to be like a spreadsheet. And now in Crowdin, I can just open a string and I can see immediately, oh, there is a term for it. That's a branded term. I should not translate it, or I should translate it that way because that's how they put it on their German market. So that really changes or that marks the brand and style of tone. Yeah, so that's the most important feature I use, and also what I really like is that it does not only show glossary entries, but it also says this term has been translated 3 times using that word, 2 times using that word. So you have like different suggestions, and when working with different translators, that really helps to make sure you're consistent.
Yeah. What are your strategies for collaborating with clients on refining source copies? Do you have any tips for other linguists?
My strategies on refining source copy. Um, yeah, well, it's always like it's great when they design the software or the product, they already think about them that it's going to be translated, like make it work so it will be easier for us. Um, so yeah, let's say you have an US copy and it just starts referencing to US politicians, and yeah, well, we have to change that for the German market because like Germans won't care. Well, maybe about some, but won't care that much or won't know about the system. So when you know your product has to work in several countries, the source copy also has to be a bit like more international and yeah, not so focused on your own market alone. So that's maybe a strategy. And apart from that, you just have to make sure like your content is really clear. So avoid any misunderstandings. Yeah, so that also helps a lot if you just make sure you have a really great source copy, and so it will be easier to transfer that into other languages and markets.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about independent translators like yourself and how they can bring unique strengths to an agile team. How do you build long-term client relationships as a freelancer in this fast-paced industry?
Yeah, as I said, the thing is, for in the start, you're almost always just the translator, and then you start. It's like usually when I start working with the client, they stick to me because they find out that you really care. They find out that you're asking questions, and so it's like very easy to build these long-lasting relationships because once you start communicating with them, it can start with a comment, it can start with an email, and once you start doing that, they realize that you really care and that you actually are more part of the team than they thought. For example, I just recently had a translation about pedestal fans, and the UK version was like we have an 8-inch version and a 10-inch version. So their name was like pedestal fan 8-inch and pedestal fan 10-inch. And I was like, yeah, that doesn't sound nice in German. We don't use inches. Well, we can do like the 25.4 centimeters. Doesn't sound nice as well. So they actually got like a conversation going within their team to decide how to actually name their product on the German market and to change the name for the German market. And it's these things where they realize that you care, and that's how you build relations within the teams. So it's actually not that difficult if you really care about the copy because you just start. You have something to translate, and you can talk about that. And yeah, that's how I build my relationship with people from within the team.
Yeah. of course, Crowdin is involved in continuous localization workflows. I'd love to know how that works for the average translator like yourself. Are you on their beckoning call 24/7? How do you get notified that something comes in? And is it something that you build into your relationship with multiple SaaS clients? What if somebody needs you at the same time as another entity? How do you manage that with ongoing releases and in a timeline, so to speak?
Yeah, it depends a lot on the software. There some clients they just update their software every 3 months, let's say, or they just realize there's something they have to fix. So these are not like very rushed updates, and there are others. I know, like every Friday, I get there's a new release, and I have to translate it within 24 hours. That's also where you can really build those relationships because they know they can count on you. So to be honest, sometimes it just turns out to be a night shift that has to be done because they need it done until the next day. Yeah, I know we shouldn't do it, but yeah, do you understand they need it? And yeah, I've had that. And well, then you may work one night and you just take the next day off or something like that. So yeah, sometimes it happens. It's just they need it the same day and you need to have like to get it done. But most of them also let you know, or if it's like very frequent, like every Friday I have to do it, or once a month I get an email and they say, hey, there's this update, please take care of it until next week. So it's like the regular ones, you know about them, and the other ones, well, sometimes you just have to go for it and help them with it. Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we've all been in that kind of situation on the project management side of things as well. I've been in the industry for over 25 years, and I started out as a project manager. So I remember those. Not that I'm involved with it anymore at this point, but I remember those days well. Doing, I think this industry is just ripe for that kind of interaction. Unfortunately. Um, Lots of translators work with glossaries and translation memories and style guides, many different ones across clients. There's been significant initiatives in the Crowdin platform to automate some of these things with AI and etc. Do you stay up to date with those technologies? What are your strategies to stay up to date? And have you significantly changed your workflow through the new features that have become available?
hmm Well, of course, I try like a podcast like that and really help to stay at the top of the industry, and I always try to be on top of the new features. About like the usage, it really depends what clients will allow me to use, because mainly I don't get to set up like Crowdin the projects. I don't get to set them up. They just take care of that on the client side. They set up the glossaries. So if I work for several brands in the cybersecurity space, so they don't allow for any machine translation or anything. So I couldn't like mix the glossaries with other clients' glossaries. Yeah, so like I have to use what they allow me to use, but of course, like the smarter glossaries get, the better for us as translators.
Yeah. What what would you say to clients is the advantage of working with individual freelance translators versus the traditional agency interaction? Do you have a pitch for using Simona Kisser directly versus going through an agency? What are the advantages of that?
Yeah, well, the pitch would be work with someone directly that actually cares. Um, the thing is, it depends a lot on the agency, but like in our typical image that we have of agencies, I don't work a lot with agencies, but very often it's the case that you ask a question and you can't like you can't guarantee how they will ask it to their client. So sometimes you just don't get an answer, or you don't get the answer you need. And if you have another question, like a follow-up question, then it will take another day for them to ask. And it's not that personal. So I think the great thing about working with individuals is like there's this direct contact. You don't have the middleman there um, slowing things down. And also, it really depends on the agency. Sometimes they don't care that much. They just want to get it done. Yeah, as I say, I also work with agencies that don't work like that. But yeah, it depends a lot on the case. And if you know if you work with your individual, you just know who does the translations, and you know that it's always the same person. Because with an agency, it could be me today, another translator tomorrow, and maybe that would like disrupt consistency a bit. So it's working with individual, like with freelancers, it's better to ensure consistency, and also they really get to know your product, and they really start to care about your people and your brand, you know. So yeah, always better to work with us directly.
Okay, that was a strong statement there. But what happens if there's too much content for you to take care of in the 24 hours that you have for it? Do you have some friends that come and help out at that point?
Yeah, that's like our network is very important for us, because it can be like you fall sick and you don't have anyone to back up. That's how you lose a client, you know. So of course, yeah, you need to have your network. You need to know somebody also if they want to expand. Sometimes you just can't do it on your own, so they need 2 or 3 people working on it. And yeah, that's where you really yeah, you need to be connected. And yeah, of course, I have people I can rely on. That's of course that's the advantage agencies have, because they take care of it. Yeah, but we, like as individuals, we have to make sure we don't leave our client like in the middle of nowhere, and just say, yeah, oh no, today I can't, and they don't know what to do. So yeah, like I say, you should work with me. Then I also have to make sure that it's good working with me, and I have to be reliable. So I take that very seriously.
Very good. And it's like you said, that's usually a big play in the relationship with end clients, to be available when they need you, because they turn to you at that moment. Maybe a, a couple of questions about what could be done better for translators in the technology space. If there was anything that Crowdin could implement in the future that would make your life a lot easier, or that would be a big improvement, what would it be?
Hmm. That's a tricky question. um, yeah, well, I think I don't know. As I said, I've never used it from the client perspective, so I don't know how much Crowdin does in that case. But I think what would be really helpful is like to make sure that the users on the client side understand the features that actually already are available, and understand how important they are. So like educate educate the users. Um, yeah, I will have to think about that. I can't think of anything I would really wish.
You know, there's actually really good news for both clients and freelancers as far as Crowdin's education of features is concerned, because we're working on a new Crowdin Power Up um, series that's specifically going to dive into all the different features that Crowdin is coming out with, that are new and helpful, and should make people's lives in agile localization a lot easier. So keep an eye open for that. That'll be a monthly session that we do. Yeah, and Dorota Pavlak is helping me with that. So that should be really, really helpful, I think, for all people that are on the platform, to really see the latest techniques demonstrated and illustrated. So Simona, thank you so very much for being with us today. We've already burned a half an hour just like that. We could have gone on for a little bit longer. Maybe we'll have you on a second time to ask you some more questions. Thank you so very much for being with us today, and until next time.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Stefan.
Likewise.
It was a
Bye-bye.
real pleasure.
Well, folks, that's a wrap on today's episode of the Agile Localization Podcast by Crowdin. We hope you found it as insightful as we did. If you enjoyed today's conversation and want to learn more about how leading companies are managing their multilingual content efficiently, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming episodes. Thank you for tuning in. For more resources on how to streamline your localization process, visit crowdin.com. See you next time.